Greetings, YouTube. We are here at the former Alameda Naval Air Station in Alameda, California. And right over there is the pier from which Jimmy Doolittle left for the Doolittle raid on Tokyo. That killed between 50 and 80 Japanese civilians, and the Japanese retaliated by killing 250,000 Chinese. But that's not why we're here today. I want to show you something else. I want to show you this. I'm just going to pan around a little bit. And that is the aircraft carrier Hornet. This very ship was the recovery ship used for Apollo's 11 and Apollo 12. So the first manned moon landing and the second, this is the ship that picked the astronauts from both of those missions up. Neil Armstrong had his first steps back on Earth on this ship. Okay, we've got, I believe this is about 45,000 tons, so a little less than half the tonnage of a Nimitz class or a Ford class. Let's have a look. Let's see if we can go on board. It says visitor entrance. That looks promising. And I see this appears to be open. I don't see anyone around, but I suppose if there's a problem, they'll just ask us to leave now, won't they? Please wait here for next available associate. We appear to be inside. How about that? And ship's bell, it says USS Hornet, 1943. That looks like something that Tom Cruise would fly. Is there something in particular I'm looking for? And I think we have found it. Yes, I'm quite sure we have found what it is that I am looking for, and that would be an Airstream trailer. Now, many of you are probably thinking, but Gordon, what would an Airstream trailer be doing on an aircraft carrier? That is a very good question. Well, it just so happens that this isn't any Airstream trailer. This is nothing less than the National Aeronautics and Space Administration Mobile Quarantine Facility Manned Spacecraft Center. How about that? And coming right along here, see these footprints? These footprints are the footprints, oh no, it says Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin, first footprints on Earth after walking on the moon. Well, it doesn't mention Michael Collins, but this is where the helicopter landed. And see this? Well, for a guy who is 5'10", he had awfully big feet. But these are the footsteps that Neil Armstrong wore when he walked to the mobile quarantine facility. Now, this is not the exact same one used on Apollo 11, but it's in the exact same spot and it's identical. It was used on Apollo 14, which was the last time astronauts were subjected to mobile quarantine. And it's identical in every way. So that was Alan Shepard, the first American in space. Also walked on the moon on Apollo 14. Edgar Mitchell along with him. And oh yeah, look at this. Here is the mission insignia for Alan Shepard, Edgar Mitchell, and Stuart Rosa. Authorized personnel only, U.S. government quarantine station. So what they would do with these things is after the astronauts would land on the moon is they'd come back to Earth for the first 3 manned missions. They would have them come off the elevator, go into here, go into quarantine, then the aircraft carrier would steam to Hawaii, Pearl Harbor. At Pearl Harbor, this would be transferred to a cargo jet, a C-141, and flown to Houston, where they would spend out the rest of their 21-day quarantine period in a place called the Lunar Receiving Laboratory. So that's kind of what it looked like. And then we had sleeping and sanitary conditions in the background. Personally, I've been thinking of buying an Airstream myself, and it always seems a little silly riding around in a metal tube. But if the astronauts did it, then perhaps it would be not too embarrassing for me to do it myself. What have we here? Splashdown, USS Hornet and Apollo. I take it this is supposed to be a sort of a American living room circa 1969, and old black and white television set, old rotary dial telephone, I remember those. And my goodness, here we have a portrait of Richard Nixon looking like a very handsome guy. And I never thought I'd say this, but compared to our previous president, Donald Trump, he was a real prince. Nixon was, that is. Yes, back in the day, we watched TV on something that looked like this, and we told time on something that looked like that. And I think that might be another clock of the day that lost part of it. Obviously, this whole little thing was basically just set up to remind people of the 1960s, and I have to say, looking at it, it looks pretty depressing. Wow, we actually lived like that. I guess so. Okay, here are some memorabilia of the space age. And in here, an early model of the lunar module. Life magazines. Astronauts' warmest welcome. But I see something here that I absolutely love. I love this. And this is some period pieces of the Peanuts comic strip about Snoopy flying to the moon. I remember this well. This came out at the same time as, actually I think Apollo 10, the moon landing. And is it signed by Charles Schulz? Well, it looks like it's signed by Charles Schulz. Oh, I could add to this collection. I've got my Superman comic book from that time, which shows Jimmy Olsen on the moon picking up some kryptonite rocks which killed his friend Superman. Jimmy Olsen was kind of a clod. He never actually figured out that Superman and Clark Kent were the same person. What sort of a reporter is that? More memorabilia. And what do you know? An astronaut survival knife. I happen to own one of those. Tribute to both Apollo 11 and 12, which is, as I said before, were both picked up by this ship. And this is something I remember well. That was remarkable. That's Pete Conrad, and in the background, you see the lunar module, but they had an absolute pinpoint landing. This is only the second lunar landing. It was so pinpoint that he was just within walking distance of the Surveyor spacecraft. That's an unmanned spacecraft that landed on the moon just a few years earlier. And really, really quite remarkable. Hornet +3, that's the Apollo 11 astronauts being greeted by Richard Nixon. And yes, indeed, I remember watching that live on television. This is one of the earliest models of the lunar lander, which looks kind of different from the final thing. If I haven't shown you this yet, I'll have to show you my astronaut survival knife. And coming right around, we have a very impressive model of the Saturn V rocket. Let's see what else we can find around this place. Friendship 7 has a wonderful name for a spacecraft. The original 7 Mercury astronauts. I am afraid that they're all gone by now. Ring, ring, ring. One moment, please. Hello, who is this? It's dead. Couldn't have been anyone important. This is an early Apollo Block 1 command module. It was kind of basic, and then they fixed it up to have kind of a phony control panel so you could see how the astronauts rested in it. And then there's a large kind of bay underneath it, then a tunnel that goes up to the docking module of to the lunar module. But let's have a quick look here. Well, how about that? This thing flew, it's unmanned, of course, no one was aboard it, but back in 1966, August 25th, 1966, it flew for, it looks like 1 hour and 33 minutes, that would be one orbit of the Earth, and it was recovered by the Hornet, this very ship. So that's kind of cool. We're looking at something that's actually been in space. Okay. Grumman S2E Trekker. You can see how the wings folded up like that to save space. Very impressive. And what have we here? Let's have a quick look. Okay, this is an Avenger torpedo bomber. And it looks like they've got something under restoration over here. Oh, restoration area, and that is restricted. So I'm not even going to try going back there. I don't know if you can see on this video, but this thing just towers over me. It's a pretty big piece of hardware. We associate single engine piston aircraft to something fairly small. But this guy is fairly big, fairly big. You've heard of a bicycle built for two? Well, that thing has 3 wheels on it. So that's not a bicycle built for two. That's a tricycle built for 3. Genemy capsule boilerplate. It looked pretty darn small, pretty darn basic. A4 Skyhawk or some derivative thereof. The interesting thing is, these things first flew in the early 1950s, so basically 70 years ago, and they still have a very futuristic look. F-14, so this would be the same sort of aircraft that Tom Cruise flew in the first Top Gun movie, and it's looking kind of cool. Yeah. Well, let's see. F-14, so this would be, oh, I think that's an ice cream truck in the background. Let's see where this takes us, shall we? Kind of dark and spooky. I've been told that some people say this ship is haunted. Do you think we'll see any ghosts?
At 1 p.m., we'll be offering tours of the island structure, engineering spaces, and the third deck. If you're interested in signing up for a tour, you can purchase your tickets at the Alameda CA.
No thanks. Looks a little bit spooky to me. I don't believe in ghosts, but I don't want to push my luck. Well, sitting down to rest for a moment. Oh, look at this. It looks like I've got this place pretty much to myself. Well, there's a human over there. Let's see if we can find our way up to the flight deck. They used to let people go inside this, so I remember being in the interior of this before, but I imagine that they felt that it was simply too delicate to allow just anyone through. I mean, after all, it is a pretty remarkable thing. Okay, I see a sign that says flight deck. So let's follow the sign. Up ladder only. How many flights of stairs was that? But it looks like we're on the flight deck. That yellow aircraft over there, I recognize that. T-28 Trojan. Oh, look. I'll zoom in for a second. That's the Bay Bridge and the skyline, San Francisco. Now I'll zoom back out. That's the island. Got this on wide angle. It's pretty big. Let's see if I can go up any higher.
wind restrictions when you went to fold the rotors. And so the deck crew wanted to know what the winds were. Because they got above a certain level, they couldn't fold the rotors.
Okay, there's the signal to the engine room, and we have the steering wheel right there. And right now, I am standing on the bridge of the Hornet, and that empty chair that you see right there, that's the captain's chair. He certainly had a lot of phones, but that's the captain's chair. Through that window is the wheelhouse. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. I'll get a real quick shot of the captain's sea cabin. That's the captain's sea cabin, and he had a much larger, much fancier place for when he was in port that could sit 30 people with crystal and linen. And that's the seat that the captain would sit in when other ships were replenishing the supplies of the Hornet. Pretty cool, huh?
Sir can then transfer his scope to match to see what those guys are seeing. And then that information is entered onto the board. Right in here. All aircraft will be tracking. Doesn't mean they're good guys, doesn't mean they're bad guys. It just we know who they are. And if we want to know who they are, they have to put a scope.
The helicopter that was used to recover Apollo's 11 and 12, 8, and 10. I was reading that it crashed off the coast of San Diego in 1975 and was lost. However, this helicopter is painted to resemble that helicopter which was lost. It's the same make and model. And the reason why it was painted to represent that helicopter was it was used in the movie Apollo 13 with Tom Hanks and Bill Paxton and Ed Harris, I guess. So we see these mission badges for 8, 10, 12, 11, 13. I don't think it did any of those. It was just the helicopter that you see flying in the movie in Apollo 13, and it was a real Navy helicopter. And then it was retired, and it was given to the Smithsonian Air and Space Museum. I think it was put out in the boneyard in Martha's Davis in Arizona desert for about 10 years, but here it is now. So it certainly gives you a good idea of what the helicopter was like, although the original one was lost, and that's quite the shame.